Hey folks, this is Ardwulf with another episode of Ardwulf Presents. We are coming to you from Vanguard Saga of Heroes. We're going to show you a little bit of the Vanguard diplomacy system. This is my character Ardwulf, and we're going to do some diplomacy here at Themnoir's Shield, which is a dwarven dam located in Thestra. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my character panel by hitting the C button. And you can see, as I've talked about in a previous video, you have different tabs in your character panel, each of which shows one of the three spheres or other things. First, we have the Adventuring tab, which has all my adventuring equipment. You can see that I'm a level 30 Ranger. We have our Crafting tab. Crafting has its own levels. I'm only a level 6 Artificer. At level 11, everybody starts out as an Artificer. At level 11, you will specialize into one of the specific crafting professions. I just haven't gotten there yet. We have the Harvesting tab. Harvesting is sort of its own sphere, but it doesn't have its own level. It just has a skill, and we're a skill 253, which puts us kind of in the middle of the pack. And we do lumberjacking, so I can cut down trees, which you can actually cut down in the game. That's something I might show at some point, but not today. And quarrying, which is you can harvest stone and gems and stuff like that. And the Diplomacy tab, you can see that I'm a level 9 Diplomat. Now, there are no diplomat classes, but each race and class has its own peculiar perks for diplomacy. I'll pull up the ability panel by pressing P here. And I have an ability called Idara's Pride, which increases all presence by 2%. That is not hugely significant at this level. Maybe at level 50 it might mean something. Right now it really doesn't, because my presences are not really that high. And I'll talk about presence in a minute. You also have just for the sake of completeness, you also have a mount panel where you can have your mount can have equipment, horseshoes and saddlebags and tack, and you have an appearance tab that you can put appearance items in. So let's go back to diplomacy, and you can see that I have some diplomacy equipment. Not really a full diplomacy kit yet, but that's kind of the current project. On Thestra and on Kalia, which are two of the three continents of Vanguard, there are what are called web quests, which are big sort of involved quest chains that you can start at a relatively low diplomat level. And your adventuring level is really not particularly relevant, because none of them that I've seen take you into any particularly dangerous areas, although you might have to be careful traveling from place to place sometimes. But at the end, you get quite a nice complete outfit of diplomacy stuff. Each individual quest gives you one piece, and you let the pieces build up. And at the end, you go to some vendor, and he will trade all the stuff in for a single suit that combines all the bonuses of all the equipment that you've gotten. And you can see in my equipment here, I'm gradually letting these pile up. They're called the web quests because they kind of interthread amongst each other at certain points. In my case in particular, we'll close this and close the character panel and pull up my quest log. You can see the quest log also has tabs for the different spheres. There are 3 spheres in Vanguard and sort of a 4th in Harvesting. We have Adventuring, which is pretty much the kind of quests that you would expect to see in any MMO. You also have Crafting quests. Again, not too terribly serious about crafting on this character. And you have Diplomacy quests, which I have quite a few of right now. Since I hit level 30 in Adventuring, I've been kind of concentrating on Diplomacy. The fact that they're gray does mean that they don't give me much XP, but you still get XP for the parlays. So what I'm trying to do here is, this one is the one that I just finished, and I did finish it here at the dam. We're going to go talk to, let's see where the quest is. We want... Oh, which one is it? Foul Gypsies. I don't know why we don't like the Gypsies, but I guess we don't. So basically I have to incite 4 guys at Themnoir's Shield of the inhabitants of this place to drive out the Gypsies. And there's like a little gypsy camp down the road. I don't know what they did to anybody, but you can figure that out for yourself. So if we click on one of these guys, and you notice there's no quest icon above this guy's head. It's pretty much anybody that lives here you can do this with. We see that there is a parlay available. This is a parlay, and it requires 10 soldier presence. Let's pull up the character panel again. And I've got a bunch of items, and these diplomacy items will tend to give you presence. So, for instance, this belt that I'm wearing gives me 8 noble presence. And then as you increasingly play diplomacy, you'll earn like permanent presence as well. But a substantial part of your total presence is always going to come from gear. So we need, 10 soldier presence. So we do have that, otherwise it would be in red here. So we have that on one of these items. Well, this thing doesn't do much. This gives me +1 demand. That's actually kind of worthwhile. We do have a diplomacy pouch, by the way, where I can store... I was wondering where a couple of these things were. Okay, cool. This pouch lets you store diplomatic items, and you'll eventually get bigger ones. This is kind of the tiny one. So we're looking for soldier presence. Here we have the shirt that I'm wearing is 10 crafter presence and 10 soldier presence. So that gives us enough. And basically that's just the prerequisite for the parley. And for all these web quests, you might need 10, 20, 25 maybe presence. And by this time, if you've played through the initial diplomacy tutorials, you ought to basically have enough presence to get through the whole web chain. You end up doing a couple of the quests more than once. So, and these also kind of take you all over Thestra. They not to every nook and cranny, but to several of the major highlights. And you can start either in Halgarad, which is the Varanyar starting area, Leth Nere, which is the High Elf starting area, Tersh, which is the Thestran humans starting area, and there's another one that I haven't started yet, so I don't remember where it is. So we're going to do this quest, and we can see that there are these 3 colored icons here: the red, the green, and the blue. And that means that this parley is going to use those 3. So that means that I need to tailor there is a 4th color, yellow, which isn't available in here. So I'm not going to ever have the chance to get expression, which are the points that you burn to do stuff in diplomacy. I'm not ever going to get yellow points in this parley, so I need to make sure that my diplomacy hand doesn't have any yellow stuff in it. So I'm going to hit the P button, and I'm going to go to the diplomacy tab, and I'm going to hit strategy. And these 8 cards are my current diplomacy hand. Now I've set this up in advance because I've already done 2 of these, so I've already made sure that that none of my cards require me to have yellow expression. And what I want to do, we'll close this, and we'll close this, and we'll start the parley. Now, I always go first. As far as I know, I've never actually seen a diplomacy parley where the other guy goes first. One of the items that I have actually gives me this extra pip of red, which is demand. And then green is reason, blue is inspire, and yellow is flatter. So we're going to ignore that tell for now. This is a guy I've been talking to that I knew from EQ2. So we're going to concentrate on this parley. Now, I need expression, and my expression piles up down here. The other guy's expression piles up down here. And the basic objective is you have these dialogue points. And every time a turn ends and the conversation is in your favor, which is where this little parley status marker is, the dialogue points will go down by 1, and your objective is to hit 0 before the other guy does. Now, exactly where these values start depends on your level versus the level of the parley. In my case, I'm level 9. This is a level 4 parley, so I've got kind of a big advantage, 13 to 23. So the first thing I want to do is I've got abilities that give me expression. So I want to trigger those so I have expression to do things. So we're going to try higher purpose here. Now, I'll explain what all the numbers are. The numbers up top in the colored circle are the range of dialogue points that playing the card affects. So in this case, it's 0 to 0, so it doesn't do anything. Down here, for each of the different expression types, you can see that it gives me 2 blue expression, and it gives the other guy 1 blue and 1 yellow expression. The yellow expression, of course, doesn't do him any good because we're not using flatter in this parley. And then this is the cooldown timer, so it's 1 to 3 turns of cooldown. So we're going to speak, and we're going to give him 1 blue, 1 yellow, and we're going to get 2 blue. And then it's his turn to go. And usually, the opponents, at least at this level of diplomacy stuff, will play a first card that pushes the status marker in its favor to some extent. So we have a kind of a high-powered ability here that costs 1. Here's where the costs are: 1 red, 1 yellow, 1 blue. Obviously, if I don't have one of those, I can't have this card in my hand, or it won't work. If we have, say, blue, green, and yellow in the parley, this card's useless because we'll never get any red. So we're going to play this because we can, and it's 5-2-5, which means it sends the parley status 5 in my favor, which is a pretty big hit. Not the highest that I've seen, but it's pretty big. And we also have another big 5.1 here that costs 4 inspire. We don't have enough points for that, so we'll play this to give us the 2 inspire that we need. And the other guy can play, and so can I for that matter, can play cards that lower the expression available to the other guy. So, but we're not going to we're not going to worry about that for the purposes of this parley. So he's just played Vanguard Rally Cry, which kicked it up to 7. So the parley's well in my favor here, and I'm down to 6. He's still up at 23 because the conversation has pretty much been in my hands the entire time. Now you can see that we have 3 red expression. This aggressive statement here costs 2 red, so we're going to play that. You do get the hang of this after a while. It can be kind of confusing at first. So it's my turn again. I'm almost there. I've got this ability which sends the parley status 3 in my direction, but costs 2 reason. We don't have any reason right now. You can see that the green column is empty. So we'll play this one, Exchange of Views, which gives me 2 green, and the other guy 1 green. Oh, and the rat bastard just sucked 2 of mine away. That's actually cool that you did that because it lets me show that feature. So we're out of luck here. Our one ability that lets us burn red for parley status is on cooldown, probably for the rest of the parley. But that's okay because the parley's still well in our hands. We'll just play this, and maybe we'll get to use it. Nope. And I've won the parley. Now this quest that I'm on here, Foul Gypsies, just requires me to incite 4 of these guys. So all I have to do is find another guy that's one of the natives here at Femnoir's Shield. Let's talk to this guy.
Looking for adventure.
And this guy, drive them out. Is this the right? Yeah, that's the name of the parley is Drive Them Out, and the name of the quest is Foul Gypsies. So we're going to play this, and it's the same red, green, blue as the other guy. And again, we're going to follow the same strategy that has served me pretty well. I'm going to... the parley starts 1 in my favor, so until he moves it in his direction, it doesn't do him any good at all. So we're just going to try and build up some points here that we can spend on stuff. And he did something different than the last guy did. The last guy played a first or second card that gave me green, which means I could use my elocution. I can't in this case. We'll just play Moral Authority instead to give myself 2 more Inspire expression. And now we're going to use Vanguard Rallying Cry, which really kicks it solidly in my direction. And now, oh, he took my my red away again. Damn. So we'll get ourselves some more red. Unless he does it again, we'll have enough for elocution. We do. You do get XP for the diplomacy XP, of course, from the parley, and the exact amount of XP is dependent on how far the conversation is in your favor when it ends. So you get a little more if it's 10 in your favor. Not a major factor, though. And once you're down to 1 at 7 in my favor, I won. I could just listen, which is basically a pass. So we will pass, and we have now completed that parley, and we've actually completed the Foul Gypsies quest as well. So let me show you something else. We have to go find the guy who gave us the quest, who I believe is down here somewhere. And we'll turn the quest in. And these things are usually pretty good about giving you gear as a reward. Hop on my horse here. The outfit I've been wearing is, of course, my diplomacy outfit. You notice also that I can move and summon my mount at the same time. In Vanguard, that's fairly typical. Most abilities, you can move and cast them at the same time. Okay, I'm not entirely sure where this guy is now. Who are we looking for? Kelmira. I'm doing like 3 or 4 diplomacy quests at a time here, so I'm obviously a little bit confused. He or she might be on the other side of the dam. Or actually right in the middle. Yep, that's this person right here.
If it ain't dwarfish, it's crap.
Ha! Funny line. The voice acting in Vanguard is really something else. It's quite cheesy. It's kind of charming in my opinion at this point, but it's not a game you'll ever hold up as having spectacularly good voice acting. I'm fairly confident that they just had whoever was handy in the studio do it that day. So we'll turn that in, And we're going to get a couple of different outfits as or Diplo gear, I should say, as a reward. So they both actually, I looked at these already. They both have the same stats, plus 20 domestic presence. There's a light brown farmer shirt and a red brown farmer shirt. I think we'll go with the light brown. Doesn't really matter. They both have the same stats, like I said. Pull this up because we want to keep our diplomacy stuff organized.
I'm sure I have.
We kind of have to do that because when you get these rewards for the web quests, you can get them in whatever order you like, and you kind of have to keep track of what you've gotten and what you haven't, because otherwise you're going to have to go and spend some money to get them changed over at the end, and we don't want to fool around with that. So before the end of the video here, we're going to just spin out to Rent and Keep because I want to show it off. Let's see exactly where we're going. There's Rent and Keep. Here's where I am. I'm at Themnoir Shield. Rent and Keep is down here. We're just going to cross some countryside, some of the gorgeous Vanguard countryside, and go to turn in the end of the web quest that I'm on, and that's this one. The red mobs are aggroable mobs, but in this case it's kind of irrelevant because everything down here is way, way under my adventuring level. Now, something else that I'd like to point out, some of these rivers actually have a current. This one does not. But some of these rivers actually have a current that will push you in a particular direction when you jump in the water. Can't swim on your mount, unfortunately. Not that that's a huge shock. Where am I going anyway? Am I completely disoriented here? I absolutely am. Not the greatest underwater effects in the world either. Game released in 2007, so the graphics are in some respects dated. I still think this is one of the best looking games out there, though, to be completely honest. It doesn't have the best character models if you examine it element by element. It doesn't have the best character models. It doesn't have the best animations. But overall, you just have these amazing landscapes that you get to travel through. And this is something I've mentioned before, and anybody that has done any Vanguard realizes it's all one huge open world. There's no instancing, with the exception of one particular place, which really doesn't even get instanced very often. It's one of the raids where you can only get up to 6 groups in the raid zone at one time before it will actually spawn a new instance. But that's something that rarely comes up. So pretty much you have this one huge open world that's free of load screens. The only time you will see load screens if you teleport or use the Riftstone network, you'll see a load screen. Load screen times are very, very decent in Vanguard. I have really never seen it take a particularly long time. It takes about the same amount of time as it does to chunk. We're going to cross a chunk line here, so we're going to see that. That's something I pointed out in a previous video as well. Vanguard loads the landscape, the client loads the landscape from the server in these chunks, and you can see if we pull the map up, each of these squares is a chunk. So when we go from chunk to chunk, we'll normally get a hitch that lasts 1 to 2 seconds or something like that. I've seen it take as long as 5 seconds, but that's atypical. Where again, we're in Thestra here, which is the sort of European-styled continent of Vanguard. The other two are Khojan, which is kind of a Far Eastern-themed area, and Kalia, which is kind of a North African, Egyptian desert-type area. For my money, here's our hitch. Actually, that's probably about average, so about 2 seconds. Doesn't come up very often. The chunks are pretty big, so you can see Rent and Keep in the background here. And a giant-ass spider that I just walked through. There's no collision detection here. It's pretty typical of games of its era in that respect. And looks like one of the farms outside Rent and Keep is having a problem. Those are something I might as well mention as well. You see that these bugs here, the Zuhur, are like this race of ant critters or whatever. You see that they have these 3 dots above them, and if I pull up the target panel, you can see that there's 3 dots up here and there's 3 blank dots here. This is what we call a 3-dot mob. An average easy mob for your level, for whatever level it is, so in this case level 20, is 2 dots. The 3-dot mobs at the same level are tougher. They are normally soloable. They are usually even soloable 2 at a time. 3 at a time gets to be problematic depending on your class. When you get up to 4-dot mobs, they start to get pretty hard to solo, and there's some variation. Sometimes, you know, a given 4-dot mob is actually may be tougher or weaker than some other 4-dot mob. Now, we actually got some other players in here. Vanguard, as you probably have heard, is not the most heavily populated MMORPG, but there's basically one server at this point, so all the population that is around is pretty much concentrated on the server Talon. There is another server, the EU server of Halgar, which basically nobody plays on. There's about 6 people that play on it, and they pretty much have the entire server to themselves. Expect this to change, though, sometime this summer when Vanguard goes free to play. That's going to be kind of a big deal. We're going to have a lot of action in these areas, particularly in this. This is kind of like a late teens type of area. It's pretty easy to get your... Where's the guy I'm looking for here? He might be upstairs. What's his name? Lars Orson. He's upstairs. We're gonna have a lot higher population in these areas once the game goes free to play. We're gonna find out, I guess, exactly what impact that's gonna have on the game. But I think even in a worst case scenario, I think it's gonna increase the game's population by quite a bit permanently. So population's pretty low right now. So it does have the benefit of there we go. There's our guy. Well, we'll show you the trick here to doing these web quests and getting the rewards. Yes. So we want to turn this in. This scroll, of course, is the diplomacy quest icon that hangs above the NPC's heads. Now, I've got an extra bag that's basically just dedicated to this. So what I've done is on the first round of the web quests, and you kind of know this when you see it, you get a series of 3 quests, and then the quests kind of combine, and you go down to New Targador and do some stuff. So for the whole first series, I've taken the first item, the academic item, from the quest rewards, and now that I'm in the second series, I'm going to take the second item in the list, the domestic item. And we want to... Why can we not highlight that? There we go. And like I said, you don't want to really screw that up, so I'll pull this down here so that I keep it straight. And for that matter, I want to open my diplomatic pouch and pull out the academic rod. And I'll put this marshal's baton in here instead, because now I have this all organized. So here's my academic items, here's my domestic items, and we can go from there. And the other ones give you either outsider or I think soldier. Yeah. So the finished outfit will actually give us an enormous amount of presence. And sweeper agent here, I think, this takes me to the Vanguard Saga. Yep, this is one of the quests. I've actually done this one before, so I know where the guy is. I'm going to show you where he is, actually, because finding him is... You don't really get a marker directly to the guy. You get a marker to the farm, which is this farm back here. So you got to kind of look around the farm for him. That does happen occasionally with Vanguard quest pointers. They will take you to the general area that the objective is in, but not the actual, exact coordinate that the objective is. So you'll have to look around for him. I actually kind of like that. I kind of liked it back when you had to actually figure quests out, but I'm crazy like that. There are some web resources which I will point viewers to at some point as well. Let's see. Looking for the Vanguard Saga. Wait a minute. That's down by... Where is this guy? So I want the Veers farm, which is actually this one with the big barn. I'm not sure where the pointer is. Sometimes the quest pointers are wonky, and you got to be careful about them. It's another cool thing that I've mentioned before is almost every building in Vanguard has a door that you can open and you can go in. And that's kind of cool. And here's Rhinegraph. So there's a farm just outside of Renton Keep, and that's where this guy's at. And I can parley with him. Let's make sure that our hand looks good. We have red, green, and blue, and we have red, green, and blue in our hand. So we'll do this parley too before we call the video. And I will just show you kind of how fast I can normally do these. And you do get these dialogues as you continue through the parley, and those are actually worth following because they actually give you a lot of lore. If you're into lore, you really want to read these. Because a lot of the lore... You bastard! Took my green away. That's okay. He did that instead of pulling the conversation in his favor. You can see I've got a big advantage here, so he can do whatever he likes. Frankly, I'm gonna swamp him in sheer parleying power. Anyway, ooh, look at that! He really pulled that in his direction. There's not even a whole lot I can do about it. I still got a big advantage here, so not exactly in panic mode. Even though this guy's a level 4 parley, though, and I'm a level 9 diplomat, I still have to pay attention to what he's doing. We'll use elocution. Pulled the conversation back in our favor. Now we're going to use Varanya Rallying Cry to pull it way back in our favor. Burn this. And now he's done. You do have, like I said, you do have to kind of pay attention to this. Looks like we're going to get one more rally cry out. The cool thing about this particular ability, this is my racial diplomacy ability. The cool thing about it is it's on a really short cooldown. And that's just nice. It also eats a lot of expression. Okay, so we've won this parley. And now I think we have to go talk to who? Lord Renton, who, you know where he's at. He's at Renton Keep, obviously. You notice that when I get into diplomacy, it actually, the UI actually swaps to my diplomacy outfit. So I am going to go talk to Lord Renton and continue the Thestran web quests. This is something that I will almost certainly touch upon again in a future video when we're closer to completing the entire series. It does take quite a while. There's a lot of running around, but the rewards are worth it. It's kind of like the quest series that gives you your first good set of solid diplomacy gear. It gives you a lot of presents and still gives you some room to customize your presents as needed for different parleys. So this is Ardwulf. I hope you've enjoyed watching. In the notes below, you will see a link to my website at ardwulfslair.wordpress.com, so check that out. It is a blog where we talk about MMORPGs, including but not limited to Vanguard and occasional other video games and even non-gaming topics from time to time. You will also find the Ardwulf Lair pages on Facebook, Google+, and Twitter, so be sure to follow those if you're into this whole social media thing. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we will see you again soon.